What a way to start the year, what a way to start 2023. It's January 3rd and it's been foggy, real foggy, for 3 days in a row. Since I don't have a car, I'm limited to the places where I can go by foot, which are not a lot, but still I manage, I think, to get a lot of footage and a lot of images during these last 3 days. So many that I'm not really sure what to make with this video. Is gonna be a little bit chaotic maybe, but I'm gonna try because it's been beautiful. It was beautiful indeed and a lot of fun, a lot of chaotic fun. So I'll have to jump in here and there to make sense of what I did during those three first gorgeous days of 2023. Like chasing trains. No! Exploring beautiful locations, but also more mundane spots, finding creepy stuff in the woods, and of course taking a lot of photographs, including the one that is so far my favorite of 2023. So please take a seat and let us enjoy the fog. Well, this morning we have a dense fog advisory, and of course that means I'm going out because this is just beautiful. This spot is not even 400 feet away from here. I've always loved that lone tree at the other side of the channel, especially when the fog removes or gets rid of an otherwise very busy background. I made a couple of images that embraced the foreground, all the grass, the ground, the posts, the dock, all of that. And then I zoomed in a little bit more onto the tree with just a little bit of water. There was a little crack, little circle on the ice, and I was trying to get some reflections of that tree there as well. And those are good, I like them, but I also had another element that I was able to play with here, and that is the cracks on the ice. I got to play with this scene for 3 days, and those were my two favorite images from there. I did try different compositions like this one where I was trying to emphasize those cracks on the ice in the foreground, but I didn't really like the tree on the left side of the frame. I prefer that tree to be in the middle. I think it just works better, it makes for a more balanced composition, and that's why it's my favorite. I do have two versions of this composition. I took them on different days because, as I said, I did get to play with these conditions for quite a while. You can compare the two that I liked the most. This one is the one that I took on the last day when it was really foggy. So the tree feels more alone than it does on the one I chose, that it was this one. The background is actually a little bit busier on this one, but because the weather was warming up, the cracks on the ice were not as dramatic as they were the day before, as you can see there on that image. Hopefully you can see the difference. They were melting a little bit and fading away. So even though I'd like to have the fog from this image and the cracks on the ice from this one, you can't have it all, so I had to choose, and my choice was this one. I really like the cracks on the ice. I think they are very dramatic there in the foreground, and I think they are more important than having a totally clean background, and that's why this one was my favorite. There are not many walking paths around here, but the good thing about these conditions is that they create the potential for good images almost anywhere. Anywhere you go is beautiful, like right across the street. That's where I'm going now. This is still not far from here. This is another of my go-to spots because you can photograph those trees with a more or less relatively clean background, especially on foggy days, of course. The first 2 days weren't foggy enough though, so I still tried and I still took a lot of photographs, and some of them are beautiful and I like them, but this location didn't really work out for me until the third day when I got much more fog. As you can see, this spot is right next to a road. I can get quite loud at some times, so my job as a photographer is to block all that noise from outside and to look deep inside to find that peace and that calm that I'm trying to capture. It does take a little bit of work to get there, but once I'm there, I'm able to see better, to find the images that better reflect what I feel when I'm there. So these images are not a representation of what the place looks like. They are just my attempt to put into a photograph what I feel when I'm there on a foggy day, because it's magical and I love it. This is what it's really cool about the fog. Even just a bunch of trees at the other side of the street can be an amazing place to explore and to photograph. You know this place as well. I've taken many photographs there in the past. I just love how the path curves to avoid the trees and how those trees lean into the path. I love that spot, but it doesn't always work. You need the right light or some unexpected guests. There are a couple deer there that are frozen because they saw me. You see, deer here are pretty used to people. Some of them will even approach you asking for food, but most of them prefer to stay clear and to keep a safe distance. I don't blame them. Anyway, I had plenty of time to find a composition that worked fine here. I just placed the deer on top of the frame in a really small, as probably a nice surprise for those viewers who pay closer attention. It looked like the fog was finally gone for the day. It cleared up quite a bit, but now that it's getting dark, it looks like it's back. Let's see if we can find something new, and not so new, as you might find this warehouse very familiar. I prefer to photograph this spot in snow, but the fog worked pretty well too. Well, this was bad timing because a train just passed by. I heard it in the distance. That would have been something very cool to capture right at this time with this weather, with this kind of fog, but it's gone. I'm hoping that there will be another one soon. Oh man, I can't believe it. 2 trains in a row. There it goes. This one was close. Look at that. Well, now the chances of a third are very slim. I mean, there will be more trains later for sure, but it's gonna be much darker. I want it! No! Train. Three trains in a row. It's rush hour. Oh man, I missed 3 trains within 2 minutes. I can't believe it. So, what am I supposed to do now? Do I wait for another one? Do I leave? Okay, well, I was thinking about waiting for the next train, but that might be a while, and it's getting dark. I'm still hoping to find something else, and if I just stay here, I'm not going to find anything. I don't know if I made the right decision. There was a train just 20 minutes later. It was pretty dark by then, that is true, but I think it could still have been a good image. In any case, I did find other things to photograph as the light kept getting dimmer and dimmer. I like this spot by a bridge. But I also took a couple of interesting photographs of cars passing by. But now let's go back to the train tracks where I returned the following day. We got 3 trains within 5 minutes yesterday and I missed them all. And today I heard a train in the distance some half an hour ago and nothing since then. I am really gonna wait, even though I only have 20 minutes left of daylight. But right now it would be the perfect time for the train to come because it's dark enough that the lights are gonna stand out. It's still very foggy, so it could be perfect, but it has to come soon. I am still waiting, of course. It's been almost an hour since the last train came. That is unheard of. I knew something was wrong, but it wasn't until a few hours later that I found out the reason why the trains weren't coming. Sadly, there was an accident some 20 miles away from where I was at around the time I was there waiting for the train to come, so I think it's safe to assume that's why there were no trains passing by at that time. Alright, still waiting, and the conditions are not as good as they were half an hour ago. The fog is definitely clearing up now. It would still be a cool shot, but not as good as it would have been 20-25 minutes ago. That's a bummer and a shame, but what can you do? So, like the day before, I gave up and left. But I'm going to show you some footage from a time when I was successful and I did get the train in some fog. Wow, that was intense. So let's go back to more peaceful locations. Here I am back by the lake. I found these pieces of ice on top of the ice. I was actually looking for anything in the water that would stand out against that very smooth surface. I was also using or playing with the background, those houses in the distance that I place on top of the frame, as you'll be able to see. I had to do a little bit of cleaning up here because there were a bunch of black tiny rocks that, in my opinion, they were cluttering the image and making it worse. So I removed a few of those in Lightroom to make the final image a little bit cleaner. And even though I had doubts at first, I decided to go for a high key image here. This is a relatively new boardwalk. I think it was built just a couple of years ago. In any case, a part of town that I had not photographed enough because it's just a little bit farther away. That's the only reason. But I wanted to see what it looked like in that dense fog. If I could be able to find some more images over there, but unfortunately, just there is not much standing out in the wetlands. So I photographed the path itself. As you can see here, they are images that I like, but I was hoping to find something else. The most interesting thing I found actually was an old boat, but I was very limited to where I could go, to the angles that I could use there, but I still like the image. By the way, this is happening late on that day. I was feeling a little bit tired from walking around all day long, carrying a lot of weight, a lot of gear with me. So I headed back home because the fog looked like it was finally going away. It was clearing up. So I dropped off a lot of gear, my video camera and some of my heavier lenses, and I headed back out just in time to get the fog again, because it got foggier for the third time that day. But this time I found myself with just my stills camera and my super zoom lens, which was a little bit limiting for this spot that I found. I gave up too quickly today, and I had very little faith on this day, but look at these conditions. This is amazing and so beautiful. I wish I had my video camera and my wide angle lens with me, but I can't complain. This place was definitely calling for some ultra wide angles to emphasize the emptiness and the vastness of the landscape. I did my best. I tried my best with the super zoom that I had. The widest focal length is 20 millimeters, but as you can see, it's just not enough. So then I remembered that my phone has an ultra wide lens. I don't have the latest and greatest phone, so in order to shoot in RAW, I need to use third-party apps. I usually use Lightroom mobile when I find myself in a situation like that, but for whatever reason I wasn't able to shoot in RAW with the wide angle lens on my phone, so I had to download another app. I think it was called Halide. Anyway, I had to use a free trial because it has a subscription model or something like that, but I was able to take those shots in RAW, a wider angle, a wider field of view of that dock there and the misty and frozen lake. I found more docks, but I was really hoping to find something in the water. So after a little bit of exploring, I ended up finding that something in the water. It was this birdhouse right here. After that, I headed into the woods. I found some creepy stuff over there. I did make an image that I like. The only one that I think is worth showing is it's this one. All right, so I have this beautiful scene here of that shed. I think that something like this will work. At this point, I headed into town. It's not a place that I would normally photograph, but again, any location can look amazing under the right conditions, and I had those right conditions. I found this very white fence, and I liked the contrast between that fence and the much darker ground, so I took a couple shots there. I also visited this location that you might find familiar as well. I love this shed because it looks like a cabin in the middle of the woods. Of course, nothing farther from the truth, but this time I tried to use the paddles on the ground and the fog in the background, creating some atmosphere. Okay, the video is getting quite long already, so I'm gonna go through the next few images a little bit faster. Here I went to the school where I was hoping to find more open spaces to take full advantage of that fog, and I found a few things, but nothing really to write home about. I cannot believe how foggy it is again, but it's supposed to rain, to start raining in about an hour. That might be the end of this, or it might even make it worse. I have no idea. I've never seen it this foggy here for so long. So I just feel like I have to keep trying, even though I'm really exhausted after 3 days, pretty much the whole day out taking photos. I just checked and I've walked more than 30 miles just doing photography during these 3 first days of 2023. I was definitely getting tired, but I also knew that I was running out of time, that I was not going to have that fog there forever, so I kept trying to reach as many locations as possible, and I found a few images along the way that I liked, and of course I made. I struggled quite a little bit at this park. I knew there was something there, and I just needed to work harder to find it. I kept circling around, walking around, trying everything from high angles to low angles. I tried different focal lengths, but nothing, really nothing was working for me. But as it usually happens, when I was about to leave, I finally found what I was looking for. I didn't even know I was looking for that, but a beautiful tree and a paddle did it for me. That's all I needed there, and it's one of my favorite images from that day. There was plenty more of photography. I've already shown you quite a few images in this video, but I have many more that I just can't fit in here. And possibly even more, because I have images that I haven't had time to work on just yet. Really, one of those days is worth like 50 of regular days. I'm always amazed at how many images you can find when the conditions are right, no matter where you are. You don't really have to go anywhere. You don't really have to go far away to find that beauty. Of course, a change of scenery every once in a while is always good, but if you get fog, or if you get some snow, or even a rainstorm or anything like that, that creates a very special atmosphere, you don't have to go anywhere. Anyway, these are some other images that I made right here in town. I left my favorite photograph of those 3 days. As of right now, I might change my mind, but I left it for the end because it really was one of the last images I made. I made it from this bridge. There is usually not much to photograph from there on a regular day, but that day the ice was forming a very cool shape. It was almost the perfect leading line, guiding the ice towards the buildings in the background. The water was either still or frozen, so I think that it all came together perfectly for this image to happen. It's been a really chaotic beginning of the year, so I'm finally going home. I don't know if there will be a fourth day of fog here. I was not expecting this one yesterday or the day before, 2 days ago, so who knows. But I think this is over and I'm gonna call it a video here. I spent the first 3 days of the year outside taking photos. I couldn't have asked for better conditions and I enjoyed it a lot. I hope you liked it as well. I'm gonna leave you now with this view, because even though the fog is pretty much gone now, it's still beautiful. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.